Yahya al Aridi is a spokesman for the Syrian Negotiation Commission and joins us now in our studio. Thank you for joining us here on TRT World. Turkey and Russia brokered this deal on Idlib demilitarization at the beginning of April. Things seemed to calm down. Why the escalation now?
Well, before addressing this point, I'd like to point out that what worries us as Syrians most is the lack of attention being paid to the plight of Syrian people. Tens of thousands are being uprooted, displaced through the bombardment of the Russians and the militias of Iran in the north. Now, this disrespect for those agreements signed, especially in Sochi, between Turkey and Russia about the de-escalation or peaceful area in the north, is not being observed, is not being honored by the Russians, and they are responsive only to the aggressiveness, to the aggression of the Syrian regime to care only about just staying in power, and also throwing to the trash UN Security Council resolutions that talk about a political solution. They continue talking about a political solution, that's the Russians, but at the same time what they practice on the ground is just invasion, bombardment, and at the same time you would hear the Russian foreign minister saying that we are coordinating this with the Turks in bombarding those people in the north.
So what is the aim of the attack by the Russians? I mean, what's their purpose?
Well, they say that the regime should have full control over the geography of Syria in order for the peace process to have a chance. Now, look at the northeastern part of Syria, where the allies are there, and they are saying almost nothing about that. In other words, their main focus is to give some sort of rehabilitation for the regime, and with complete ignorance, with disregard towards the Syrian population, the civilians.
Mm-hmm. How did you perceive the Idlib demilitarization deal in the first place? Did you believe that it could hold? Or are you not surprised by what's happening?
Well, we thought that it could hold, but look at Astana as a whole. From the very beginning, the Russians have selected one item, which is ceasefire, which was talked about by the Geneva Communique, by Resolution 2254, in order to have a ceasefire. And we remember the late 2016, the ceasefire signed in Ankara. Then Astana took over, and they changed that into the so-called demilitarized de-escalation zones. And these de-escalation zones, unfortunately, were not respected by the Russians. Another dimension in the Astana meetings were the human one, like establishing confidence-building measures. None of these confidence-building measures was observed. No prisoners were released from the Assad jails. And at the same time, Idlib was saved, we thought, through this Sochi agreement between Turkey and Russia. But look, now we have another Holocaust taking place in Idlib, with the world somehow turning a blind eye towards what's happening there.
Right, it does seem like it's being largely continuing to be ignored by the international community. What are some of the ramifications of the humanitarian crisis that's taking place here? 3 million people live in the Idlib region. Potentially could be flooding into Turkey. I mean, what could we see happen here?
Well, this is a tragedy in the happening. Actually, we notice this. We know that our people are over there in tens of thousands. Actually, the number has reached almost 200,000 at the borders, and in no place, in no man's land. Their cover is the sky and the ground. And at the same time, they are being targeted with confiscation of their belongings by the militia, Iranian militias, and at the same time, they are being chased. So this is a tragedy, and the world should pay attention to this. Europe, the UN, the United States, they talk now. The latest statement made by the United States is that we heard from the Russians that it's going to be a minor and a limited one. Are they surgeons to pinpoint one particular thing? No. Look at what is happening. There's just devastation all over the place. And this is really a misery that has been going on for 8 years with the Russians, talking too much about finding a political solution, but in reality, there's much ado about nothing.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Yahya al Aridi, thank you so much for your time today.